This is Spiritual Game Plan, and I am Cheri Fletcher. Today you're going to meet 4 high school students who have worked with me over the last 3 months, and we're ready to go and present to a middle school about the importance of having a spiritual game plan. Due to the coronavirus, the schools have been closed, and these high school students will not be able to present what they've worked so hard on in person. But because this year's theme is resilient faith, these 4 students, we're not going to let that stop them. We are putting together a Zoom panel that then can be presented via online to the middle school students. What that means for you is that you get to get a glimpse behind the scenes of what these 4 students have worked on. Spiritual Game Plan was a program that came to mind while I was watching my husband coach my daughter's 6th grade basketball team. 14 years ago, I watched those girls study their game plays over and over. They brought their game book home. When they were called out on the court, they were ready. And I wondered what that would look like if our kids studied a spiritual game plan just as hard, that when they were faced with the temptations and the peer pressures and the normal things of high school, that they would know what to do. I knew if I went down to the middle school and presented, not only would it be a lecture, but it would my kids would probably want to hide under their desk and roll their eyes. So I talked to a couple of the high school kids that I was currently mentoring, and they were ecstatic to work with me on a program to come up and teach these kids what they wished they had had before they went to high school. And Spiritual Game Plan was born. I know that today you'll be blessed by the energy and the discipleship of this next generation. We've studied a book, and all the information of the resources that we've pulled from the book that we've been studying will be in the notes on this link, as well as any ways to get in touch with me if you have questions about Spiritual Game Plan. So I hope that you'll be blessed by the hard work that these students have done.
Hi, my name is Stella. I'm a senior, and this is my second year of having the privilege of being on the Spiritual Game Plan team as a leader.
Hello, I'm Ezekiel. I'm a senior as well, and this is my second year to be a leader in this spiritual game program.
Hi, I am Bethel, and I'm a junior, and this is my first year to be a leader in Spiritual Game Plan.
I'm Harrison. I'm a junior, and also it is my first year with the Spiritual Game Plan team.
Awesome. Guys, the 4 of you have been prepping with me now for 3 months so that you could mentor the Spiritual Game Plan. Why did you become or be interested in being a mentor?
So I chose to become a mentor because I knew that within this program comes spiritual growth and experience, and I wanted to share with the young ones God's mighty hands in my life and in the lives of others. And I'm an older sister to 4 of my siblings, and it's like a huge task. And you know how the young ones, they always look up to the older brother or sister. I see it as my first position in leadership, in the home. And just like any siblings, they watch and they follow and copy what the older siblings do. And so from a young age, I was taught to be a good example and to be a blessing and not a curse. And we learned that also in Christ's childhood as well. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to be able to help and encourage the young ones and to lead and reach out to them as their big sister in Christ.
So just 4 years ago, I was in the exact same position as all these middle schoolers. I knew that high school was going to be huge for me and very important because I'll make my decisions that would lead my future life. But the thing is, I didn't know the best way to approach high school, and I was worried that I would make the wrong decisions. But thanks to the message I got during Student Week of Prayer 4 years ago, I was encouraged on how to make my decisions and the importance of setting goals that I want to achieve. Now I have this opportunity to give the same message that I hope will relieve some of the stress that some of these people have with high school, but also emphasize the importance of the choices you make and building a deep-rooted relationship with God now. I understand what these kids are going through right now, and I've been through this stage of life. So being a mentor for these kids is very important for me because I want to give them advice on their life experiences that I've gone through.
It's awesome.
For me, I remember being extremely stressed out in 7th and 8th grade, very, very nervous for high school, and numerous people around me in my atmosphere in middle school would tell me how important high school is, how hard it is, how sometimes they almost said it was miserable. And so I almost thought, like, if I were to graduate high school, it meant I was like perfect or something. It was just this huge milestone. And I walked into my first year of high school extremely scared. I later did get used to it. I began to get distracted with non-school things. And about 9 months ago, I started talking to God and developing a relationship with God. And I know God put us on this earth to serve people and to bring others towards him. So that's why I wanted to be a mentor.
Awesome.
For me, when I was in 7th and 8th grade, I actually went to public school, so I've had a mix of like both private education and public education. And so fitting the mold in both different scenarios is very hard. And so for me, entering high school, I didn't have a mentor or anyone like to really look up to. And so I kind of just started bottling and internalizing things. And so I know how that's like and like how unhealthy that is. And so I just want to be a mentor that I needed when I was younger. I want to be the mentor to them.
That is awesome, you guys. It's been so much fun working with you. So I just realized I think Ezekiel is the only one on this panel that actually was a student at BV. Were you a student at BV, Bethel? No. So Ezekiel, when he was in 7th and 8th grade, this program was running for him, and now he is a mentor in the program. That's really awesome. So this year's theme that we worked on was resilience. And we wanted to find out what resilience meant to each one of these leaders as well. Stella?
Well, to me, resilience means not succumbing to the things around you. There's lots of outside distractions like social media and just beauty standards and all these things. And being resilient means kind of standing out and just breaking away from that box that you're put in, you know, and just setting your own example. You're being yourself, and you're not exactly avoiding these things, but you're acknowledging that they exist, and you're not allowing yourself to become a part of it.
So for me, resilience is a character trait that takes time to grow and cultivate. And it's formed by character training and building by accomplishing, self-control and temperance. A story that comes to mind of resilience is the story of Job. Everything was taken away from him, his land, his family, even his health. But through it all, he had resilience, being rooted on the rock. His faith did not crumble when that storm came by.
For me, resilience means to bend but not break. And no matter what situation you go through in life, whatever tough situation you go through, it will not bring you down. Yes, there will be times where you might question God. There might be times where you question your faith and why you're allowing this to happen. But having resilience means you go through those times knowing that God is guiding you all the way. I love this verse in Joshua 1:9. It says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go."
For me, I believe we all fall and we all are going to make mistakes in life, and we are all going to encounter obstacles in our life. But where resilience comes in is where we decide to get back up, because it's impossible to avoid all the obstacles of life. But when we decide to get back up and push through the tough times, keeping our eyes on God and things that are only healthy for us, and push through regardless of the rough times and continue to better ourselves is what I believe resilience is.
Guys, that's awesome and good job. So this year, the book that we worked on together was called Faith for Exiles, 5 Ways for a New Generation to Follow Jesus in Digital Babylon. And the book stresses the need for intergenerational mentors and how important those mentors are in shaping and speaking into the lives of our youth. The book talks about digital Babylon and that you guys are living in that as we speak, and the ways that you guys can mentor among living in digital Babylon. And the hot topic that we seem to kind of discuss a lot was screen time. Screens are profoundly changing the way that you guys interact and the way we interact as older adults, and they affect us in many different ways. So we wanted to talk to each one of you guys before we talked to the middle school about how screens affect your life and your experience.
Yes, so for me in general, it really has hurt me more than it's benefited me. So like when I was in middle school, and I got my first phone during that time. And really since then, I was always 24/7 on my phone. And usually sometimes I use my phone for good things, like I'm talking to my friends or I'm learning good things on internet, even sometimes listening to sermons and stuff. But usually most of the time I'll always spend time on like other bad things, and really just spend too much time on it and prioritize mainly my time on the screen instead of doing other things like reading or even talking face to face with somebody.
It's definitely life-changing. You know, the way that we function today is much more different than 5 to 10 years ago, which was not that long ago. And I believe that it's affecting, you know, people of all ages. And technology allows everything to be much more accessible. And there's so much you can do behind the screen, you know? You can become a different person, you can learn, you can create, connect. There's pros and cons to it, and it's an open door to many possibilities. And if there's no balance, you know, with the device, instead of you controlling the device will end up taking over and controlling you instead. You'll be sucked in. And I personally don't have any social media right now. And although I still catch myself stuck on my phone using various apps. And when I did have social media, I did worry about, you know, being good enough and liked by everyone. But now since that's taken away, I don't really have that problem. And I was never bullied online or anything. And now that I look back on it, it seems that I didn't have a firm foundation, you know, on Jesus, on the rock, to the point where I allowed likes and comments to define who I was as a young girl.
That's I think a lot of people deal with that. Stella?
Yeah, just piggybacking off of Bethel, screens have really affected my life by making me subconscious and just kind of competitive, in the sense where, like, in this world where everyone like is looking for validation, you compare yourself to others. And especially when media, like on their billboards and their bright screens, they're like plastering like what beauty should be rather than what beauty truly is. And so sometimes you feel like you have to compete. Like, screens for me feel like they morph what is acceptable, and they like this, what's the word I'm looking for here, they unvalidate what is acceptable. And so for me, definitely screens have just kind of made me feel uncomfortable with myself, you know, like is who I am like who I should be, or should I be what all these different medias are telling me to be? And so I think that's a thing that a lot of people struggle with these days, is differentiating between this is me and this is what I put up.
That's good. Harrison?
When I was younger, I actually was not around electronics quite as much, but as I got older, I've noticed the world uses them more and more. Just when I was in middle school, a piece of paper and a pencil would get me through my classes and through my days. And now it's like, if you don't have a computer and an iPad with you, sometimes you can't even take a class without them. And I believe I've been able to do so many beneficial things, been able to learn so many things online, learn instruments, learn really anything I want to add to things I can do in my personal life online. But it's also getting harder to avoid the bad things, because people will often say, oh, technology is what you make of it. If you want to keep everything good and positive on there, you can. But if you're wanting these bad negative things, or if you feel as if you can't resist them, essentially, they're there for you as well. And they are there. But I noticed, for me at least, my experience with technology is, although it's getting more and more advanced and more beneficial as time goes on, it's also getting harder to avoid the negative things, because now they're just everywhere. So
Yeah,
that's my experience.
That's a good point. One of the things that we do when we do this program in the school is each one of these kids works on their own personal testimony about their walk in resilience. And we will have a short panel on their testimonies, what they've gone through over the last 3 months and what they've experienced in their life in resilience. And we're going to start with Stella today. And Stella, you've experienced what you called and talked to us about cyberbullying.
Yeah, so when I was in 7th and 8th grade, it was an Instagram account, and it was just like my personal account. It was private, and so I hadn't been on for a few months, and so like I didn't know what my account looked like. So one day I was bored at home, and like many people, I pulled out my phone and I'm like, okay, let me check my social media. And so I went to check my account that was private, and a whole bunch of posts had been deleted, and then there were a few posts left, but all the captions on all my posts had been changed to like say like bad things about me and like about my different features. And so I didn't know what to do, because first of all, I felt violated because my account had been hacked. And then second of all, it was more concerning because I didn't know who it was. And to this day, I still don't know who did that. But I'm very like private with my passwords, as one should be, and like with my accounts and stuff. And so I was just very confused, and it was kind of a horrific time, because it's like who out of their day wanted to take time to personally like hurt me, and personally like do this to bring me down as a person. And then I also felt bad myself, because like who have I hurt that would want to do this, or what have I done that someone would want to do this? And so for a while I took a break off media, and like I kind of just reassessed the situation. And then what I came to terms with is that like somebody must be hurting really bad in order for them to reach out and try and bring someone else down too.
That's a good point. When someone is bullying us, they've often been bullied or they're hurt themselves. And one of the things that you talked about was that computers and screens can be like a safe wall or a mask. Tell us about that.
All right. So a lot of the time when I'm on media and stuff, I see these funny things like expectation versus reality. And so you'll see these things where they bring up an Instagram post, and it's like this beautiful, aesthetic, colorful Instagram post, from certain angles and stuff, and it looks great and all, like it's photoshopped or whatever. And then you see the comparison, the reality of it, and like let's say like it's a picture of a girl, and it's like it's her actual body type, it's her actual hair, it's the actual lighting in it, it's just like it's her raw beauty, it's her real self. And so I feel like the safe wall is what we want people to see. It's a mask in our face. It's like this is what I want to project about myself, and this is what I want people to see, because I don't want people to know that I am human. and that I too have problems and that I am struggling. So I'm just going to like just push out all the good in my life and just broadcast that like my life is so great, when in reality maybe that day like I've had an anxiety attack, like I've been crying, I've been stressed, but I'm not going to post that. And so I feel like the safe wall of the screen is just kind of disconnecting us, because in reality we're not being real with ourselves and we're not being real with other people. So how are you to make a connection through people through a screen when you're not being authentically you and you're being someone else?
Yeah, that's true. And unfortunately it doesn't just go away at your age. It continues on. It goes on and on in this society of what we, telling us what we're supposed to look like and be like. You shared with us that when you went to a leadership camp, that things kind of changed for you.
Yeah, so this year for our student leaders, there was a leadership camp that they decided to start up again. And that was just a great experience, because for me, being a leader in school, it's just very difficult, because like I feel I have a lot of eyes on me, watching what I'm doing all the time, making sure that I'm maintaining a good leader aspect and like my good leadership qualities. And it's just a lot of pressure, because sometimes like I want to break down, but then I feel like I have to be strong for other people, and I have to just set a good example. And so when I went to this leadership camp, it was amazing, because everyone there wanted to be leaders. They all wanted to help their school, and they wanted to help others and benefit others. And when we sat in that circle and we all just kind of poured out like our feelings and just all the weights on our shoulder, it felt like all of them lifted off, because like somebody else gets it, somebody else relates, somebody else is also going through what I'm going, and I'm not alone. And so it was just, there were no walls. There's no safety wall, because like we were out in the middle of nowhere. None of our phones really worked. It was just purely us, and it was authentic, and I felt connection.
That's huge. I think that's the main word, is you felt connection, because it was a real personal connection with people and not the screen connection that we're so used to. You had talked about when we met, maybe some steps that might have helped you in believing, some steps that helped you get past that mask. Do you remember what those steps were? You want to share those?
Yeah, sure. The first one is definitely opening up. Like for so many of us, that's really difficult, because we often bottle up all our emotions until like we finally explode, and then we get a new bottle and we just start to bottle that one up, and then it explodes, and it's an endless cycle. And so I feel like opening up, no matter how hard it is, once you open up and just kind of get everything out, get all that gunk out, then you have open space to put in something good. And so I feel like the first one would be opening up, and then the second one, not only do you have to open up, but you have to make yourself talk about it. Like, yes, you can put this stuff out there, but then you also have to talk about it and like assess it and get opinions from trusted friends and trusted people. And then the third one is, prayer. Prayer is so important. And I feel like a lot of the time, like people are like, yeah, prayer, like blah, 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 like prayer this, prayer that, because that's a lot of the time what you hear. But the truth is, like when you pray, like that weight lifts off your shoulder. We went to this camp in this one group that we have at school, and we all got these heavy rocks, these heavy boulders, and we had to carry it around with us all day long, And then by the end of the day, we just went somewhere private by ourselves, and we sat with our rock, and we had to look at it and say, so what is this rock? What is it that I am carrying on my shoulders all the time? And then when we were ready to pray and just kind of let it go, then we pick it up and we throw it. And that weight was just off our shoulders. And so prayer is so important, because you just let go and then you let God.
I like that. That's a really nice picture of what we're carrying around as the rock. That would be a great challenge for anyone watching this video, is to take a heavy rock with them around for the day and really identify what that rock is. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I know that there are a lot of people watching that can relate to you, and your words are going to help them also become resilient in their faith. Next, we're going to hear from Ezekiel. And Ezekiel, you shared with our group that you had a struggle with setting your priorities because you found yourself spending a little bit too much time with your screen. So tell us what that struggle was for you.
Yes, so I would spend a lot of time on my video games, and like instead of doing homework or spending time with family or even talking to my friends, I'll just go do my video games. So even when I was bored, I would play. Even when I was stressed out with the day, I would play video games. Even when I was depressed, I was playing video games. The bad thing is that I was using video games as my go-to thing to help me relax and calm me down and to just help me relieve myself instead of like going to somebody to talk to somebody about my day and then or talk to a trusted adult and help just have a conversation with them. And I was just prioritizing video games for like everything I was doing. Like instead of again like doing homework, I'll do video games. Instead of spending time with family, I'll do video games. So that's what really hurt me. And I spent too much time on it and I couldn't get things done. And it really hurt my relationships with friends and family.
Yeah. Why do you think that not you, if kids are watching right now and they do that too, what do you think that it is that they're avoiding by constantly going to the video games?
It could be just conversation with a trusted adult or something, or they're hiding something from school, or something they're worried about. So I mean, like it's really something they might be hiding, and they just don't want to say it out because they might be too embarrassed, or they're not too comfortable to say it. So instead, they'll just keep it to themselves. But that actually really hurts you a lot, and it will just bring you down in a terrible road that you don't want to go through.
It is. You turn to it towards validation sometimes, and sometimes we can put a lot of validation in what we're seeing online. If someone likes what we're doing, or we're playing a video game with someone and we're really good in that area, we might feel that that's our validation.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about how you related to Peter. How did you find that relation?
Okay, well, as we all know, Peter was a fisherman. He was like he had a huge ego. He was a very rough, tough guy. Um, and when Jesus came to tell him to follow me, he immediately followed him. The thing is, he didn't know what Jesus was trying to do in his mission, real mission on earth. He thought Jesus was gonna take over the Romans and he would be one of the top advisors to Jesus or something, and he would take one of those positions and help lead all these other people. But that's not what Jesus was actually trying to do. Of course, he was coming down to this earth, dying on the cross for our sins. And Jesus was a humble guy, but Peter was a old guy who wanted to like show his power and everything. There's many times even that Jesus was trying to show him what he was trying to do, like especially when Peter was walking on water. I mean, that huge leap of faith that Jesus was trying to show Peter. I mean, Peter still didn't fully understand what Jesus was trying to do. And when Jesus eventually was going to die on the cross, and when Peter denied him 3 times, Peter really finally realized like what he was doing wrong, and then how he was blinding himself from what Jesus was actually trying to show him. So that denying him 3 times was his breaking point, and he finally turned to God, and he just gave up everything that he was doing wrong, and he humbled himself to God, and then he made his mission to follow God and help others try to go closer to God.
Yeah, sounds kind of like the 3 times that Peter denied. The denial of Jesus is maybe some of the things that you were doing when you were playing the video games. You were kind of denying what you should have been doing all along, and turning towards things that where you found that you did have power and did have some control. It's a great scenario. So what changes did you have to make in your life and setting your priorities?
The main thing was just put away those video games. It is a simple, easy way to thing to do, but however, it's pretty hard. I mean, like, it's not very simple to like quit this bad habit like immediately like that. but you have to have the mentality, and plus you need a mentor or somebody that you well know and who can help you guide you and to put away those distractions. So that's what I did, and just the mentality you put yourself in to put it away and let God help work in your life. And I like what Stella said about prayer and how that this lifts a burden off you. So just praying about it and being actually determined to actually do it will help you quit your habit.
Yeah, and having a mentor, even if it's a really respected classmate that can hold you accountable to when you want to turn to the video games or your screen, what is it that you're trying to get away from, and maybe call that friend and just say, hey, I'm wanting to play games, and that will you pray with me instead? Or that's a really good idea. And so we're going to shift gears a little bit from testimony. One of the things that we did so that we would be better prepared is we sent out questions to the middle school kids, asking them about their experiences where they're at in Digital Babylon, because we wanted to know how to prepare and to be able to meet the students that we would be talking to where they were at. We asked them about their use of time. We asked them about their choices and friends. We asked them if there was someone in their life who was a spiritual mentor. And we also asked them where they would tend to look for happiness and contentment. And when we got those answers back, we scanned them, and each one got a copy. Each of you guys got a copy that you could look through them. And then I asked you guys to kind of look through them on your own and look for a common thread throughout all of them, and then get back to me on what you saw when you read their answers. So I'm just going to ask Harrison real quick. What were some of the things you saw in the answers of the 7th and 8th graders to those questions?
Being kids in this generation where we're mostly raised up in the technology era, I think we've gotten so used to it that we don't even know how people communicated or how people did things outside of technology. Because now I think while technology can be good, we miss so many opportunities to get involved. We miss opportunities to go up and talk to somebody in person. We miss opportunities to go and help people. And I think ultimately we overwhelm ourselves with technology, and we kind of overload. Our nation definitely spends too much time on technology, and we use it as a shortcut. Millions of people, if not billions, when they're feeling some sort of way, rather than talking about it, they rely on technology. Let me talk about how I feel behind the screen instead of actually to someone's face. And I think that's definitely done a lot of damage to kids. And we turn to our phone for advice when we want. I've had friends who they want advice in something, and they type their advice into the Google search bar, and you get millions of different pathways that you can take in achieving that. So it's like if you're wanting one narrow thing said to you, it's almost impossible, because you have this website's going to say, oh, do this. This website's going to say, no, don't do that. You should be doing this. And I think ultimately we confuse ourselves, and when it comes to our thinking, we live in a very limited world. We limit ourselves a lot because we rely on technology too much.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things we saw kind of a current with the kids that answered those questions. They turned to their phone quite a bit. Ezekiel, when you read the answers to those questions, what are some of the things that that stood out to you?
Yeah, so one thing that stood out to me was I asked the question about do they have like a mentor or somebody they go to like help them, comfort them, or if they have like any questions about anything. And not a lot of them actually had somebody they can go to. So that's something I think that's very important that people should actually have. And like what Harrison said, instead of going to a trusted adult or some trusted friend, they would just go on your phone and then look up like an answer for something. So I think it's really important for good friends around you that actually don't bring you down. Instead, they encourage you, they lift you up. And a good trusted adult that can be able to give you good advice, and like and, and a trusted adult that can give you good advice that could help you with your life and your life decisions, especially during this time as a middle schooler. Like it's a very huge important point in your life where you start to make decisions on your own, and then where you have to learn where you want to direct your life. So it's very important that you have that mentor.
Yeah. And I remember that answer. A lot of kids said they didn't have someone that they wanted, that they felt they could go to. Bethel, what were some things that stood out to you?
I think going back on the kids having a mentor and someone they can go to, I think the answers that they gave us had a lot to do with their upbringing and what they were taught at home and how home is. You know, some kids liked church, going to church, and others didn't, and they all varied. So going back on what Harrison was saying on going to Google and asking Siri, it's almost like teaching the youth to find instant gratification and get everything at that instant. And that's what, you know, the media has for us. That's what Google has for us, is everything is out there in the open, and it's truth mixed with error. And so if these kids, they don't really know how to determine between the both, they can be, you know, deceived and taken in really easily, and they can be gullible and listen to the different opinions that people have, you know, online. And so yeah.
One of the things you said, you used an acronym that I really liked, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later on too, but give us your acronym. I really liked that.
It was busy, buried under Satan's yoke. And so, you know, as high schoolers, we have everything that's going around us, you know, busy schedules from homework to extracurricular activities to sports. And it's all this weight that is, you know, that we have. And as Christians, you know, Christians are very busy, and it's something that we're attacked upon. And so, yeah, that's the acronym that I found.
I liked that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So Stella, when you read the answers to the questions from the middle school, what were some of the things that stood out to you?
Well, excuse me. Like Ezekiel, I definitely saw the no role models thing too. And for me personally, like, I guess I could relate to that, you know, when I was their age, and I just really want to reach out to them, because like that's not good, not having nobody to turn to, you know, that puts a lot of stress on yourself that is so unneeded, and you're burdening yourself without even having to. Like, I'm sure if you just reached out to even just a friend, or even tried to open up, like I highlighted in my testimony, it would be so much more helpful than you realize. Another thing that I wanted to highlight that I saw, I think at least 3 or 4 people put, is that you bottle it up until you cry. And that's another thing that I also highlighted in my testimony, because yes, that makes you appear to others that like you're okay, and you can take things for a while bottling it up. But at some point you do reach that breaking point and you do cry, but you have to realize that that is so unhealthy to like just fester everything inside of you until you finally explode and reach a breaking point. You need to get rid of that bad energy and those bad things in your life as it comes, so that you have more room for all the good things. Another thing I saw too is so I kind of like math, and I like comparing things and seeing the different ratios and stuff like that. And so what I did notice was there was a significant connection between the kids who spend more time and have more screen time versus whether they feel included or not. And so from that, and from what I took from that, is that the kids who are spending more hours on your phone or more hours on screen time feel less included. And I feel like the reason of that is because they're trying to find validation online. Like, let's be honest, there's these things online that lots of middle schoolers and high schoolers do too, where it's like, you know, to be honest, you know, like tell me what you honestly think about me, or rate me or something, or what am I to you, and all that stuff. So you're seeking validation from like all your followers, and you're seeking validation from this this person that you've never met in real life, but you just know of them online, whereas you're not seeking the like healthy validation from the people around you, like from your friends, like, oh, you're a good friend to me, because we can talk about our problems together, like you're a good friend because we spend quality time. But they're seeking validation on their phones. And so one quote that I found was, technology, it's good for bringing you closer to the people that are far away, but then it brings you far away from the people who are close to you. And so you can go deep online, talking to other people, and people are fine with posting their emotions everywhere online, but they're not okay with talking about it face to face. And I think that's definitely a serious problem in our society, is like personal connection and talking face to face is hard, whereas it shouldn't be.
Yeah, you made a really good statement that we're connected, we're close to the people that are far away, but we can't really even connect to the people that are right here. And how you said that. One of the things, Stella, that you say that you're hearing a lot right now, even among your age and in this culture, is the phrase, you do you.
You do you, yes.
What is that message telling the youth?
So, like everyone else, like for a while, like when someone said, oh, should I do this? I'd be like, oh yeah, you do you, like whatever, And then I came to the point where I realized me just telling my friends to do like you do you is just telling them to like do whatever you want, like it doesn't matter. But doing when you say do whatever you want, you're saying, oh, like I don't care, like it doesn't matter, that you have no role model when you say that. When you say you do you, there is no standards, there's no comparison or anything. You're just doing whatever, and you're not aligning yourself to what God says. You're not aligning yourself to what you've been taught. You have no expectations, you have no rules, you have no role model. And so that can get kind of out of hand when you say, oh, you ask your friend, should I do drugs? Should I make this bad decision? And they're like, oh yeah, you do you. It's like, I don't care. Do whatever. There's no rules.
Yeah. That's good. That's really a good thought. I see a trend. We're seeing a trend statistically that there's more anxiety and depression in our youth and even younger than middle school kids. And I think that's because a lot of the young kids are looking to their devices and other things to make sense of their world. So we're going to talk to Ezekiel. Ezekiel, why do you think it's important for our youth to have cultural discernment? And what are some things you wanted to say about that?
Yeah, so in our life, our main focus should be spending time with God and helping others learn more about Him. And with cultural discernment, you have to know the difference between what we call digital Babylon says and what the Bible says. So at this age is a good time to learn more in the Bible and to make sure you know the difference to what the Bible says and what things in the world say, because Satan really loves to mix both the world and good things all together, and it can be really hard to discern the truth. So ways to combat this is, again, having a good mentor that has been having experience with this through their lives, and that will give you good advice for you that can help you, guide you in the right way. And also, most importantly, spending time with God, whether it could be through prayer or whether it could be reading the Bible. That will help you get closer to God and also help you push back those distractions and also help you discern what's right and wrong.
Yeah, I like the word discernment because Satan's really good at mixing little bits. You think you're looking at something good and it's going along, but Satan will mix a little bit of faults in there, and you got to really, really know the difference in that one. And right now, like we mentioned with you guys, we are more connected to each other in the world, but it seems like we're pretty isolated and lonely. And so I was going to ask Harrison, what are some of the effects you see in relationships among youth?
I think there are multiple different types of connection. When I hear we are connected in the world more than we ever have been, to me, it automatically makes me think about we are connected technology-wise, and the effects I've definitely seen on relationships is, I believe, the definition of relationships. The world has changed the definition of relationships, and I think people nowadays would much rather connect technology-wise than in person, and people would rather text than talk in real life. Well, why do I have to talk to this person if I can just text them and I can sit comfortably in my own home behind my screen? And bottom line, it seems as if most people, because they have ways to FaceTime, call, text, people do not want to put in the effort of going out and talking in person, because to talk with somebody in person, the connection is so much more real and it's there, but there's also effort that needs to be put forward. You need to go meet with them. You need to sit down and talk with them. You need to give them your quality time. But when people are really willing to do that, we also acknowledge the other person's efforts, and I believe it makes all of us to feel good to know that people are putting effort into us. And the verse I connected with how the world has changed, like the view on relationships, is 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, "Do not be misled or fooled, for bad company corrupts good character." And I just thought of this as, if you were constantly surrounding yourself in a toxic relationship area, especially, you might be thinking in your head like, oh my goodness, how are these people doing relationship like this? How are they connecting like this? But then the more time you spend there, even when you don't realize it, the more we begin to become like each other. So I believe if we want to have truly good relationship with each other, we need to also have relationship with people who also want that.
Yeah, that's a great point. One thing I was thinking of while I was listening to you, I like the point that you made. We have to make the effort. Connecting with people online doesn't require a whole lot of effort. Someone can leave me a Facebook message or a text, and I don't have to respond right away. And if someone were to ask me a question face to face and I just sat there and walked away, that wouldn't make them feel too good. So personal relationships, spending time, actually takes an emotion. And I think the reason we are feeling so isolated is we're losing the emotions that we can get from personal relationships. Good emotions, bad emotions, healthy emotions. Having one-on-one relationship is very nourishing, and knowing that someone takes the effort to spend time with you is very complimentary. It feels good. And so I think we're feeling a lot more isolated because we're just basing it on a quick and that doesn't give us a long-term substance in our emotional needs. And I think what you said is really good on that one, Harrison. So while your screen provides all these opportunities that we've talked about to connect, it seems like people are spending hours and hours in just meaningless scrolling, meaningless gaming, like Ezekiel talked about. And I think if we are looking for this common link in our anxiety and depression, it's the tragic levels of isolation. And when we're isolated, then that's when Satan can really get a hold of how we think and the thought processes we have. So I want to hear your thoughts on that, Ms. Bethel.
From reading the book that we've been given, we've learned that personal devices, they feed the part of our brains that love instant gratification. So I talked about that a little bit earlier. And so this comes to show that Satan is working to cultivate our brains and hearts to want instant gratification. And he uses media, and there's all different types of media. There's social media, there's listening to music, there's watching TV, playing video games, and there's a quote I want to read real quick. Websites, apps, movies, TV, video games, music, social media, YouTube channels, and so on increasingly provide the grid against which we test what is true and what is real. Now, we can go back to Daniel and his friends when they were taken in captivity to Babylon. King Nebuchadnezzar had a plan for them. He wanted to change everything that they grew up with their mindset, how they behaved, how they their worldview. He wanted to change their religion, and he by going into Babylon, Daniel and his friends, they had a firm foundation of making sure they had a firm foundation on Jesus to the point where they wouldn't be moved. And so going back on media, in the beginning of time, when our first parents were tempted, Adam and Eve, Satan came to Eve not as himself, but through a different medium. And the root word for medium is media. So still today, Satan is working through the media to tempt us and to just like set us off track. As Satan uses his devices, we need to guard the avenues of our soul from reading and listening and watching unholy things. If you just allow Satan to have that little open door, he'll take advantage of that and just swoop right in and take control. And so there's a verse in 1 Peter 1 verse 13. It says, "Wherefore gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Jesus Christ." So social media can be called as an addiction, and there's so many different addictions. There's take it for example, as if it was alcohol and doing drugs, all those bad things. It's like no difference to social media because it can be used for the wrong thing. Being sober in mind means having a clear thoughts and pure thoughts. And so when we take social media and we allowed the devil to use his devices against us, this can lead to us having impure thoughts. And so
yeah, you guys are awesome. This has been part 1 of the spiritual game plan, and we're going to be coming back for part 2, where we have the testimony from Bethel and Harrison, as well as a special segment where the girls will speak. The high school girls will speak a special message to the elementary school boys, and the high school boys are going to speak a special message to the elementary school girls. And we just want to thank you guys for how much effort and time you've put into allowing yourself to be young disciples for God. And we will catch up with you in part 2.